Ray McNeil was a champion bodybuilder who served in the United States Marine Corps. He was also a father, and a husband, but his widow Sally claims he was abusive. The pair met while they were both serving in the Navy. They found a mutual love for fitness and married in 1987. Ray McNeil biography, age, height, wife, net worth, wiki. Ray McNeil was an American bodybuilder who was killed by his fellow bodybuilder wife Sally McNeil. Recently the 2022 docuseries released on Netflix about the murder titled Killer Sally brought the incident to light. Early life. Much is not known about Ray's early life and background, but he was known to be born on December 17, 1964 in the United States. He was known to be of African American ethnic background. Ray was believed to be a high school graduate, but his education and qualification details have never been talked about in public. Thus, much is not known about his education and background. Ray McNeil career. Ray was a professional bodybuilder and was highly enthusiastic and passionate about his career. He was highly athletic and spent most of his life training at the gym. His career was growing and fledgling, however it needed his wife's monetary support. Ray started his career in the Marines where he met his wife Sally. The two were highly passionate about bodybuilding and soon left the Marines and turned full-time bodybuilders. During this time, he was said to have used illicit steroids to keep up his professional career and also depended on his wife's income from muscle prostitution. Sally, his wife, used to make $300 hourly by wrestling men in hotel rooms. After Sally started focusing on her own career in the 1990s, Ray suffered a setback and felt stigmatized. Death. Ray was murdered by his own wife Sally McNeil in 1995 on Valentine's Day, which was said to do in self-defense. Ray was known to be violent and abusive towards his wife, who shot her husband in self-defense to avoid the violent husband from causing harm. She shot Ray twice, once in the abdomen and the other at his face. She immediately called 911 for emergency help while her husband lay down in pain and her daughter stood scared. Sally never denied the claims and pleaded not guilty to shooting Ray in self-defense. Sally was put under a lot of public and media scrutiny after the incident and was also accused of murdering her husband. The self-defense claim was also largely discussed as a bodybuilder, and the buffed woman was believed to have protected herself well and was also thought to be too strong to be abused. Sally was later convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 19 years in prison. She served her sentence at Central California's Women's Facility and was released on parole in 2020. Ray McNeil biography. Real name: Ray McNeil. Birth date: December 17, 1964. Died date: February 14, 1995. Aged: 30 years. Birthplace: United States. Profession: bodybuilder. College: reputed university. Qualification: graduate. Physical statistics: height in feet, inches, 5'11", in centimeters, 180 centimeters. Weight in kilograms, 95 kilograms, in pounds, 209 pounds. Hair color: black. Eye color: black. Personal life: Ray was married to a fellow bodybuilder named Sally McNeil. The two first met at the gym while they were both in the Marines. Their first meet was described as lust at first sight. They bonded over a shared passion for fitness and athletic idealism and got married in 1987. The couple was also known to have two children, Shantina and John. After the death of their father and the sentencing of their mother, they were sent to a shelter and later spent their life with their grandmother. Ray McNeil net worth: Ray, being a bodybuilder, was not financially stable and had to often depend on his wife's income and help to move his career forward. The issues about the McNeil family's financial struggles have often been told to the public. Thus, no information can be retrieved regarding his net worth on the internet at this moment. Trivia: his wife Sally served in the U.S. Marine Corps and was a sergeant in the 1980s. Within 3 days of his marriage, he physically assaulted his wife and punched her in the face. He also often choked her and abused her in front of their children. His father was also often involved in abusing his wife Sally. A Netflix docuseries about the death of Ray and the trial has been released on Netflix titled Killer Sally in 2022. Sally was older than Ray and was once married before she got married to Ray. Achievements: 1990 U.S. Armed Forces Championships, NPC, overall winner. 1991 California Championships, NPC, overall winner. California Championships, NPC, heavyweight, first North American Championships, IFBB, overall winner. North American Championships, IFBB, heavyweight, first 1992. Chicago Pro Championships, IFBB, 8th Night of Champions, IFBB, 7th 1993. Grand Prix England, IFBB, 8th Grand Prix Finland, IFBB, 7th Grand Prix France 2, IFBB, 4th Grand Prix Germany 2, IFBB, 8th Grand Prix Spain, IFBB, 6th Ironman Pro Invitational, IFBB, 10th Niagara Falls Pro Invitational, IFBB, 2nd. Olympia, IFBB, 15th Pittsburgh Pro Invitational, IFBB, 5th San Jose Pro Invitational, IFBB, 5th. In the years that followed, Sally got into muscle worship, which involves recorded sessions where she was paid to wrestle men into the ground. She made enough money for Ray to leave the Marines and become a full-time bodybuilder. However, Sally claimed that this wasn't enough, and their marriage turned volatile. She said, "Made Ray happy that it was paying for his steroids, then he hit me." In the docuseries, Sally talks about the abuse she claims she endured over the years. What happened to Ray McNeil in 1994? Tensions between the couple came to a head when she was confronted by one of Ray's mistresses. On February 14, 1995, the two engaged in a massive fight that turned fatal. Sally, who was 27 at the time, shot Ray twice with a shotgun, once in the abdomen and then in the head. She immediately called 911 and claimed that she killed him out of self-defense and that he had been beating her. What happened to Sally McNeil? Despite Sally's efforts to claim self-defense, she was found guilty of second-degree murder in 1996. Prosecutors managed to challenge her story of abuse as investigators found the couple were both using steroids, leading people to dub the murder the roid rage killing. They successfully argued that the killing was premeditated, and Sally was sentenced to 19 years to life. She is serving her sentence at Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla, California. Netflix's 3-episode docuseries, entitled Killer Sally, about her years with Ray, is set to premiere on November 9, 2022. The true story of Killer Sally and bodybuilder Sally McNeil. The new Netflix 3-part documentary covers a grisly murder in the bodybuilding world. The latest addition to Netflix's true crime documentary roster focuses in on the world of bodybuilding, and in particular, the murder of one of the most famous American names in the sport, who was killed by his bodybuilding wife. Killer Sally, or Killer McNeil, the name Sally McNeil went by at her peak of her on-stage career, revisits the 1995 case, when McNeil admitted to shooting her husband, Ray McNeil, on Valentine's Day. But it's far from a clear-cut series of events. As the three-part documentary by Oscar nominee, Nanette Burstein, explores, this was a case involving alleged domestic violence, steroid abuse, and other dark happenings in the competitive sport world, including something referred to in the series as muscle prostitution. Interviewing friends and family members of the McNeils, and McNeil herself from prison, the court case hinged on whether, as the synopsis states, it was self-defense, a split-second decision to save her life, or a premeditated murder, the revenge of a jealous and aggressive wife. This content is imported from YouTube. You may be able to find the same content in another format, or you may be able to find more information at their website. Killer Sally Official Trailer Netflix. YouTube Killer Sally Official Trailer Netflix thumbnail. What happened in the murder of Ray McNeil in 1987? 23-year-old Ray McNeil and 27-year-old Sally Loden were sergeants in the Marine Corps, stationed at Camp Pendleton, near San Diego. The two had been in a relationship and married the same year, but from the off, it was reportedly a tempestuous relationship, with rumors of infidelity from Ray. By 1990, Sally had been demoted and left the Marines and focused on her bodybuilding and doing private wrestling sessions with men. However, the money paid well, and it was this underground practice that enabled Ray to also leave the Marines to focus on bodybuilding full-time. The couple both started placing well in regional and national bodybuilding competitions, but the scene impacted negatively on their relationship. Ray was said to continue to play away from home, while Sally had several violent outbursts in public. In 1990, she was suspended for a year from the National Physique Committee after she attacked a woman who was allegedly having an affair with Ray, and in 1993, she kicked a bouncer in the face in a bar in her hometown of Allentown, Pennsylvania. The pair were also said to have been at odds about the lack of money in their household. On Valentine's Day, 1995, after Ray came home from the gym, Sally shot him in the abdomen and then fired a second shot at his head. Their children, 11-year-old Shantina and 9-year-old John, were in the house, and Sally rang 911 and told them, as you can hear on the trailer, "I just shot my husband because he beat me up." Ray was lifted to Scripps Memorial Hospital, La Jolla, but he died several hours later, and Sally was arrested for murder. Tests were done on Ray and various steroids were found in his bloodstream, and as Sally later revealed to RX Muscle, anabolic steroid use was the root of Ray's violence towards me. When Ray and I first got married in 1987, I had no idea that he was on steroids. So I did not know that he was suffering from roid rage when he'd fly off the handle and beat the holy hell out of me. In the same interview, Sally revealed the extent of domestic abuse that she claims took place in their marriage. "He threw me across the room when he saw me talking to another guy when I was at work. He picked me up like a rag doll the minute we got home and just threw me across the room." Over in Okinawa, Japan, where we lived off base, Ray beat me over 52 times in that year over there because he was having roid rages. One of those times was because I would not write a list of all the men I had dated. Ray choked me 3 times, on the 3rd time I had spasms. Sally went to court a year later on Valentine's Day, again, where she explained that on that night, Ray had been beating her up and choking her, which is why she used the gun in self-defense. The prosecution argued that the murder was premeditated by Sally, as Ray was planning on leaving her and she wanted the life insurance money. Sally's lawyers couldn't match any DNA evidence that Ray had been attacking her, and the prosecution zoned in on the fact that a shell was found in the bedroom, suggesting she had returned to the bedroom to reload the gun. In March 1996, Sally was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 19 years in prison. She appealed her sentence, and had it overturned. However, the state of California then took the case to the Supreme Court, which reversed the appeal, reinstating the original conviction. She is still in prison now, with a potential parole hearing this year. Sally explains her side of the events in the documentary, and makes the case once again: "I have a right to defend myself. I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't want to die. This is still happening today, the story of an abused wife accused of murder." This article is more than 1 year old. A sensitive new docuseries considers the case of Sally McNeil, a woman who killed her violent husband in self-defense. Killer Sally, a new Netflix true crime docuseries, begins as many in the genre do, with a death and the tape of a 911 call. We hear Sally McNeil's voice, shaky but steadfast, answering the operator in Oceanside, California, with clipped statements: she just shot her husband because he was beating her. The wailing voice in the background is her daughter. Her husband of 8 years, bodybuilding champion Ray McNeil, is on the ground but still breathing. Killer Sally never disputes these facts, nor the fact that Sally shot Ray twice, once in the abdomen, once in the face, with a gun she had purchased, killing him on Valentine's Day, 1995. The 3-part series, directed by Nanette Burstein-Hillary, is less an investigation into what happened that evening than a detailed parsing of how the legal system, and the media at large, handled McNeil's case, as a member of the misunderstood subculture of bodybuilding, as a victim of prolonged domestic abuse, as a muscular, undeniably buff woman who prosecutors argued was too strong to be battered. That handling was, unsurprisingly, not sensitive. McNeil was arrested and charged with murder. Her 2 children, 9 and 11 at the time, were sent to a shelter, then across the country to live with their grandmother in McNeil's hometown of Allentown, Pennsylvania. The press labeled Sally McNeil, a former Marine and amateur bodybuilder who moonlit as a wrestler for direct-to-home videos, the pumped-up princess, a brawny bride. Her case drew national attention on the heels of several high-profile trials involving domestic violence and/or the cultural specter of the angry woman, the O.J. Simpson trial in 1995, in which Simpson was acquitted of the murder of his wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, who he physically abused, Tonya Harding's connection to the assault on rival figure skater Nancy Kerrigan in 1994, Lorena Bobbitt's 1994 trial for cutting off her abusive husband's penis. All 3 have been the subject of contemporary cultural reconsiderations: the Simpson trial in Ezra Edelman's superb 2016 docuseries O.J., Made in America, Harding in the 2018 film I, Tonya, and Bobbitt in the 2019 Amazon series Lorena. I have no interest in gratuitous true crime, Burstein, who also directed a 2014 ESPN 30 for 30 episode on Harding, said, responding to concerns over the genre's tendency to exploit rather than explore. McNeil's case, like Harding's and the Simpson trial and other high-profile crime stories of the 90s, act as a prism for larger societal issues then and now. That is what really attracted me to the story. It was really about domestic violence, and it's about gender roles, she said. It's really about other women, because this is still happening today with numerous examples of criminalized and incarcerated survivors of abuse who claimed self-defense. Though there is no official tracking for the rate of this criminalization, evidence suggests that domestic violence contributes to incarceration in direct and indirect ways. A 2016 study by the Vera Institute of Justice found that 77% of women in U.S. jails were survivors of intimate partner violence. Killer Sally thus offers McNeil a familiar contemporary revision, examining how the legal system was unprepared for and unsympathetic to the insidious effects of sustained domestic abuse, especially from a woman who presented as physically strong. How a prosecution team could successfully twist her self-defense arguments and inconsistencies into a conviction for second-degree murder, with a sentence of 19 years to life. How intimate partner violence ingratiates, degrades, and perpetuates, largely told in McNeil's own words in several sit-down interviews. The 3 episodes trace, mostly chronologically, Sally McNeil's simultaneous paths into amateur bodybuilding in the 1980s and into a whirlwind romance with Ray McNeil. Beaten both by her stepfather and her first husband, Sally found respite through sports, diving, cross-country, and, in her 20s, bodybuilding. She met Ray McNeil in a gym, which she describes as lust at first sight. On the outside, the two were a photogenic bodybuilding power couple, standouts in the crowd. Interracial. Sally is white, Ray was black, clad in tight gym gear, a parade of muscles, both passionate about the pursuit of aesthetic idealism through intense training and control of the human body. The series takes its name from Sally's stage moniker, which she adopted as a means to make money to support Ray's fledgling professional career and the illicit supplements, steroids, required to remain competitive. Sally could make up to $300 an hour from so-called muscle prostitution, in which she would wrestle men in hotel rooms or on mail-order videos. In the year 1993, she says, she spent $24,000 from her own career, however seedy and stigmatized, on Ray's bodybuilding pursuits. The financial strain dovetailed with increasing volatility at home. McNeil and her 2 now adult children, Shantina and John, recall routine beatings by Ray, beginning shortly after the McNeils' wedding in 1987. 3 days into their marriage, she says, Ray punched her in the face, cracking her lip. Sally says Ray, who had at least 100 pounds of muscle on her, often choked her. Shantina remembers the sound of her mother gasping for air. Ray once broke Sally's nose in front of her children. She filed a report, which went nowhere after Ray beat her until she promised to recant. In a devastating piece of footage from the police interrogation room on the night of Ray's death, McNeil's children try to reassure her that everything is going to be okay. If you thought he was gonna kill you, then that's self-defense, says John, a 4th grader. The final hour of the series focuses on McNeil's 1996 trial, including the prosecution's argument that McNeil's reloading of the gun before the second shot evinced premeditated intent. You look at a case like this, and you do have to wonder about somebody's innocence or guilt, just like the jury had to wonder this. So it's important to present the strong argument that the prosecution was making, said Burstein. But some of it was also pointing out how inane some of the argument was, that she couldn't have possibly been a victim because she was too strong. Which is absurd. Evidence deemed admissible to the court, especially after McNeil testified in an attempt to explain her own story, included the cover to a video she made in character as a wrestler, Killer Sally holding the same shotgun she would later wield against Ray. That was not evidence, and yet it was probably one of the more damaging things presented to the jury, said Burstein. The trauma that she had and her children had and how you react in those situations was not sensitively discussed in the trial and was definitely undermined by the prosecution. Jurors' subjective processing based on sexist biases, such as the idea that Sally could not be a battered woman because she was in costume a muscular, man-destroying killer, is not just exclusive to the 90s or beforehand, said Burstein. That's still the case today, unfortunately. Ultimately, as in many other cases, McNeil's legal defense of so-called battered woman syndrome, now understood as a subset of post-traumatic stress disorder from intimate partner violence, did not work. She served nearly 25 years in prison. The final act of the series plays like a moving postscript to a life and family still in flux, in recovery, dogged by cycles of abuse and violence and strained relationships made worse by a punitive justice system, looking ahead to what could and should be a better future.